The Springboks went down to the All Blacks this weekend, as many expected, in Christchurch, making it 3 straight defeats for Alistair Coetzee's men. To discuss this further and other sporting headlines from the weekend, I'm joined in studio by S24 editor Gary Namney and chief writer Rob Howing. Gents, good morning and welcome to our last show in the studio before we move over to the new building, so make it count. Rob, I'm going to start with you. Yes, the Boks weren't given much of a chance this weekend, and it was relatively tight at half-time, quite a competitive first half. Did you expect the score to blow out as much as it did, and was it a case of the All Blacks doing their usual resurgence in the second half? What did you take from that game?
It was utterly to script. I would have suggested before the game, you don't want to sort of deride the Boks too much, but we know that they're in a period of hardship. We know that they're in a period of uncertainty. We know that they're missing quite a few key players. We mustn't forget that, I suppose. But no excuses. I mean, the writing was on the wall even at halftime, I thought. Yes, we were reasonably competitive in the first half, but it's still pretty sad when you're 15-10 down to the All Blacks and you're sort of thinking, well, let's take that. Let's bank it. That's not too bad. In the old days, you'd be sort of on the edge of your seat for an entire All Black test, waiting for that vital penalty that might swing the game either way. But that just doesn't exist at the moment. The Springboks do, I'm afraid, look like a rather sort of motley bunch. They were resilient to a point, but as you say, the All Blacks do have that ability to sort of suddenly find that power fifth gear towards the end of a test match. And really, I sensed that it was just a question of time before the floodgates did open. You could see that the Springboks were vulnerable out wide, even quite early on in the game, that their defensive lines were pretty appalling, frankly. Not so much about the lack of desire defensively, but I think the lack of structure was sort of painfully evident. And of course, the All Blacks they've got that patient ability to just wait for the time to strike. And then when they do, they strike lethally. I mean, 6 tries to 1. That's almost more embarrassing than 41-13. Okay, it was 28 points in the end. Some of us would have said, probably before the game, if the Boks could hold them to within 20, that would be a good outcome. So in fact, it blew out a little bit more than we would have, wished. So it meant for a very bleak sort of Saturday lunchtime for most South Africans, and then we sort of moved on to the sort of relative slop, I'm afraid, that is Currie Cup these days, which doesn't offer you that much of an alternative cheer, because it only makes you realise that there's not that much lurking, domestically either, that hasn't yet been put to some sort of use by the Springboks, although there are a few good youngsters coming through, but basically pulverised, and that's really the only way you can describe it.